Here we can see that we have our reference image. We are going to quickly sketch that to learn the macaw's anatomy. For the most part, I can see that the macaw has a lot of oval shapes and triangle shapes within it. And we are going to sketch its body, which primarily consists of a big oval right here. The head is also an oval, so we'll do that. Towards the tip of the wing, it's a little bit more pointy as you go down. A little bit kind of like a half a oval and half triangle a little bit. Here we're going to do the feet, which also consists of small ovals and circles. And then the feet kind of consist of a lot of little cylinders. And we're going to do the tail right there, which is a triangle. And do the eyes and spruce up the few lines here. Do some feathers. Because the feathers kind of go downwards like that. For the most part. So we'll actually scratch that. Just have an arrow pointing that way because it's a sketch. Doesn't need to be completely perfect for this one. Because we're just learning basic shapes at the moment. We'll just do some very simplistic shaping. Work on the face a little bit. Get the little chin bit. Adding some more shapes. The toes. Okay, so there's a few lines for feathers, just so we know where they would go. Okay, so now we're going to be going forth with the other one, which is also oval shaped. As you can see here, you got our little oval. And starting with the beak, where it's just half an oval with a little curve to it. And then we take and do the same with the bottom, but where it's kind of inverted. And we just kind of do some little half circles on the face that kind of meet together, kind of a little bit like a heart a little bit. And we put the eye there. And the neck kind of looks a little bit like a bell. So we'll kind of do a slight bell shape. And then the body, once again, is an oval shape. And we'll put the little branch there so we know where their feet's gonna go. Work on their neck a little bit more. Put their wing there. And we'll work on the other one's leg as well. Where it's just kind of invading the other one's space. Though, if all honestly, the one that's kind of going yum to the other one is kind of invading their space in all reality. But yeah, we'll just erase the eye here to fix it. Have it more centered. Right there. Sorry if the mic quality isn't very good. Currently, don't really have very good recording space yet. And also the camera quality is not exactly the best either because I'm just recording with my phone that does not like the focus. No matter how many times I tell it to focus. My phone is like me. It's got the attention span of a goldfish. This is sketch 1. We'll move on to the second reference, which is one that is flying. Which you can see how it's just kind of mostly bowed, like it's in a bit of a shape of a bow. And the head is once again oval shaped. So we'll carry on what we learned from the first sketch over to the flying sketch of just oval shaped head. I'll clean that up a little bit. Beak is kind of facing downward. As shown in the reference image. So it's just kind of going like that. Make it a little bit bigger. Like so. I have a little green patch right there, but their little mask is kind of the same. So we'll just do the same thing that we did with the first two. With the top part and the bottom part. Oh, sorry for the image blur. The camera does not like to focus one bit. Okay, now we'll start with the wings. Which the wings are like a ginormous triangle. When it comes to sketching things out like this, it's really all about breaking them down into simpler shapes. So that way you can understand easier how to sketch these kind of things outward. Because then it just makes it easier to break them down and then later on add details in most cases. Okay. The feathers, in my opinion, don't have to be perfect the first time, especially if you're just doing practice sketching. Or even if you're just making a character, the feathers don't have to be exact. But at the same, well, for me, I like to keep my feathers and designs pretty accurate to the actual animal. But that's just me. I like to keep mine to where they look neat and tidy and orderly. I like to keep my things tidy for the most part. But being said, this is just practice sketching. It does not have to be clean, but just clean enough to be able to tell what it is that you are sketching. Also, the tail is also another triangle. Like I said before, these guys have a lot of ovals and triangles into them. Okay. Now we're just cleaning up the wings a little bit. So with the wings, you can notice how they have 3 layers. But here's the first layer, like the first 2. And then we'll go ahead and do the 3rd layer. But first we'll clean this up a bit. Like you can see how there's 1, 2, and 3 layers and stuff right there. We'll also be counting how many feathers they have going upward. For when it comes to their primary flight feathers, there's like 5. So we'll do 5 of those. And then there's just a bunch of other feathers that are behind those going up the wing. There's also about the same number of primary feathers on the second layer. There's also the review of 3 layers, as you can see. And we'll go ahead and continue with that and just mark out where the feathers go. When you find like feathers difficult to do, it's always good to just break them down into simpler shapes, which I think a lot of people just find them extremely difficult because they don't really particularly know what shapes to really look for when doing wings. And so I'm here to just break it down for you guys that they're really just triangles with lots of little cylinders in them, to put it simply. Lots of little cylinders, rectangles, and oftentimes a lot of them are rectangles with little circles in them if it's like a rounded feather. So it's really just a matter of just breaking them down and just having basic knowledge of shapes and geography. Not geography, but what is it called? Just basic idea of shapes. I can't think of the one word, so wait, yeah. Geometry, that's what it was. You just have to have a basic idea of geometry and shapes. Leaving notes on your sketches is also very helpful for remembering things, like having notes that macaws have a lot of triangles and ovals. As you see here, this macaw here has got its wings wide open and just facing a completely different angle than what a lot of people are really used to. So we'll start off with the head, which is once again an oval, and we got the body, which is also an oval right here. And we'll go ahead and fix the body real quick. I didn't like that oval, so we'll just remake it, starting with the neck and then fixing our little oval. And we'll just break the oval into fragments, that way we know where things go. And we have our little face here, where we have our beak, which is tiny little triangles. And then we'll just fix this up a little bit. And we're just gonna erase a little bit of that. Fixing the beak up. Terribly sorry about the camera focus. I really need to invest in a better way to record these. But I really wanted to show you guys how to do this. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start on that big wing right there. As you can see, it's a big obtuse triangle. So we're gonna go ahead and put it around here as we start on our obtuse triangle, like so. And inside of the obtuse, there's also another obtuse triangle as well. And the other wing is also an obtuse. It's another obtuse triangle. So we'll go ahead and sketch that out. As you can see with that, it just kind of has big cylinders within the triangle as well. So we'll go ahead and do that. And so it's slowly coming together. It might not look completely pulled together quite yet, but we are still in the sketching stages. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect because it's just sketching. For this part, you can see how it's just kind of like a bit of like not a triangle, but a rectangle, kind of a bubbled bubbled rectangle, just square. I cannot words for the life of me today. But anywho, we'll continue with this, with how it's a lot of triangles. Even the tail is a triangle. It's a big triangle with a bit of a bubble at the bottom. Okay, so now we have our very basic shapes. Now we can put in a few details in here where we just figure out where things go. Like how the tail has lots of little feathers. Well, they're not really little, they're just kind of big tail feathers that just kind of go downward. But an important thing to remember is that when you're doing feathers, it's important to remember to know where those feathers are going, like a main focal point. Like for most feathers, they'll go towards the center of, like, say, the triangle, or for, say, the tail, it'll go towards, well, the center of the macaw's tail end, to put it politely. So that way it makes it a lot easier to do. The feathers need to go towards the top of that point. We'll do that. And we can see how the feathers are just kind of going towards that point again. Okay, we're just continuing with the feathers of where they need to go. Let me fix this real quick. I'm still learning how to sketch these guys. That's why this is called studying. It's important to study these kind of things. For the most part, I'm pretty confident in drawing macaws so far with the first two sketches. And the macaw has, once again, those five main flight feathers at the front. And they're all going towards that little dot. Just going upwards. And then we have these other feathers that are also going that same direction. And the inside of the wings seem to really only have 2 layers, so you only have to worry about those 2 instead of the 3, like on the outer wing. So we'll go ahead and start on that second layer. Just the very simplistic, just down the wing. Just kind of have it where it's pointed. And now we're just gonna go ahead and start doing the inside of these and work on this wing. Still lots of ovals and triangles. Let's always remember to use simple shapes. And now we apply what we learned with cartoons. And for the cartoon variant that we're going to do, we're going to use Jewel from Rio as a reference on how to do the cartoony style type macaw. And then later on we'll go from this style to my style. And as you can see, Jewel also has a lot of ovals in her design. So we'll start with the basic ovals. Even her beak is a little bit of an oval with a bit of a point in the middle. We'll just go ahead and do that. And get that bottom jaw open because her bottom beak is open. Just working on this here beak. And then she has these really big eyes that are very noticeable. Being that this is just a sketch of a cartooned macaw, I'm gonna just kind of do it a little bit of my way too. So I'm not gonna add all the little details and stuff, but also the body is once again an oval. Gonna do the feet. Though looking at how Rio's macaw's feet are, they're not particularly accurate to actual macaw's feet, but they probably did that just to keep it simplistic. Just keep it simplified, where they got little like, you can also see how their legs are kind of triangles, triangles too. Their feet are too short. I usually leave little notes to, you can see how like their feet are a little bit longer, especially in that one, how it's just kind of zigzagged like that. So I like to leave notes like this as like a note to remember. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and give this one a little bit more accurate feet. Just because I got a little bit of OCD on that, where it's just, I really pay attention to detail on those things. Though I still think the designs in Rio are absolutely fantastic for like a film that is based on macaws. For it just being like a bunch of animated macaws in a whole entire movie, so I imagine they probably made the blue sphinx macaws and the toucan the way they are to bring more attention to them and to really push their character. And for the brightness of the blue sphinx macaws in Rio, they probably made them more brighter so to attract more attention to them. While actual blue sphinx macaws have a little bit more of a lighter bluish gray type tones. And their beaks are much smaller. While Blue and Jewel's body designs look a lot more like blue and gold macaws. Because you can see how the actual blue sphinx macaws look compared to Blue and Jewel. And they have those little bits of hair on the feathers in the back that they don't have either. But that's probably just a character design. But for me, I just like to keep things pretty accurate when it comes to my drawings a lot. Though when it's just character designing and it's like go wild, it's fun. Though being said, we're doing a gold and blue macaw. Their nostrils are usually not on the beak, so we'll just do that. While the beaks on Blue and Jewel technically are correct, but at the same time on like actual blue sphinx macaws, they're kind of still slightly above the beak, while it's just the skin above the beak also kind of looks a little bit like the beak, if that makes sense, because it's like the same type of tones. Maybe sometime I'll draw Blue and Jewel kind of similarly to what an actual blue sphinx looks like. I think that might be a fun little project to try. If you guys want, I can also sometime draw some other birds too. Like I could probably do some toucans and stuff at some point. Okay, now that we have a basic idea of what we want to do with our macaw, let's go ahead and get started on the actual piece. First we're going to do the background. It doesn't have to be too fantastic, like I don't really care too much for backgrounds. I find them kind of difficult still yet. So we're going to just go ahead and just do our own thing. The point to remember with this is that you gotta do it in your own style, and I'm still trying to figure out my own background style. Sorry about that, vehicle was just driving past loud as balls. But anywho, we're just gonna do our own little thing here. There's a bunch of little mountains in the back that are barely noticeable, so we're not gonna do too much to them because they're barely even going to be noticeable by the time we're done with this, so it's not going to be too important, but we'll still give these some love. Doing these little mountains with the shading of these, I'm not quite sure what I wanted to do with them, but like it's one of those things where I didn't know if I wanted to do the same as the image or do my own thing. But in the end, I wound up just doing the lighting and shading a lot simpler for the background mountains. Just so like it saves me a lot of hassle. I mean, it for the most part it just looks pretty good. I'm still trying to figure out what to do with this part. So I just decided to just go with this kind of shading. Where it's just pretty simple. Nothing too difficult, or it doesn't really need to be difficult or too super detailed for that. Okay, we're just gonna change the tones of these because they're just way too light. Change the tones a little bit. Okay, now we're going to start on the water that is in the front of it, where there's just multiple different shades of blue. And just kind of add a bunch of little shades. We'll do some little highlights with this, so that way it just kind of pops a little. Do some shading, well, not really shading, that's more or less highlights, but yeah. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get started on these cliffs that are in the background. Funny thing, we actually have some macaws over here in the Caribbeans. We also got iguanas and other really neat things over here. We also got geckos and little house lizards. We also got a few cool sharks and stuff. Some stingrays over in the waters. In fact, earlier today, when me and my partner were just heading over to the pharmacy, we saw these really, really vibrant baby iguanas. They were so cute and pretty. Also, I saw a lot of other flowers too, but I'll show those in another video, or I'll probably just post them to my Instagram because they're just really pretty. And I want to share that kind of stuff with you guys too. Who knows, maybe I could make some postcards with that stuff. Okay, back to topic. Currently we're working on a little bush on the top where it looks green, but it's not really green. It's actually several shades of purple, which is actually a really neat shading trick. Like, I really do enjoy these cool shading tricks for when it comes to these kind of things. Because people will be like, no, that's green. It's like, actually, if you take the color by itself, it's actually purple. Well, it's kind of a little bit more of a lavender color, but yeah. I just find it really cool. We'll add some highlights here and make this cliff just pop. And here we got our cliff. And we'll work on the other cliff. It's kind of got a little bit of a neat looking shape to it. It's got a little bit more pinks to it than the other one does, but that's probably just because of like the sun is coming from the other direction, shining more onto that cliff than the other cliff. But yeah, let's go ahead and do the purple shading onto here. We'll fix this up just a wee bit so it looks a little bit more orderly. And we'll put the little stream up here. It doesn't have to be exactly the same because it's once again in our own style, so don't worry about it too much. Okay, so we have this little cliff that's kind of on the side that's attached to said cliff. We also got our little waterfall here. As we color that, we also gonna add our little lighting here and there. Add some blues. Ignore the tablet was dying when I was recording this. And so during this part of the recording, I did not realize that the tablet died and didn't save the little bit of progress that I did for the top part of the cliff, because my tablet died and didn't save that bit. So we just kind of skipped, I guess we kind of just skip over to when I do the macaw. Okay, so we're basically using what we learned from the practice sketches that I show to you on the paper, on the sketchbook paper, and remembering that there's a bunch of triangles and ovals. So we're just gonna implement that into this, but we're gonna change the angle just a bit, and now we're just adding all the little details into here. We're gonna give him a bit of a sharp beak, some cute chubby cheeks, maybe some hair fluff, some fluff going down his neck, some chest fluff, and now we're kind of start working on the feathers or the wings. Just gotta figure out a good angle to start with. There we go. Getting our feathers, boys. Got the first layer of feathers, and now it's time for the second layer of feathers. We'll get to the... And there's this part of the feathers as well. Okay, now we'll get on to the third layer. We'll start from the middle and to the tip. Okay. We'll just fix these a bit to fit inside of the line, inside the line base that we have created. We'll straighten these out a little bit, and we'll just go ahead and add these other feathers. And bada bing, we got the first sketch of the wing. Now we're going to do the tail. This is still in sketch stages, so we're still sketching it a bit. We're going to make this wing a little bit bigger and put it there. And now we're going to work on the inner wing, which once again is only really 2 layers of feathers, so we don't have to worry about it too much. So it shouldn't take too long. We'll add a bit of eye. Bit for the eye, and now we can do the line work. For this, I did not know if I wanted to do black lines or if I wanted to make the lines colored, kind of like in My Little Pony, but in the end I chose to make the lines colored. Please ignore the several attempts of trying to get the line just perfect. Okay, so we finally got the beak where we wanted it to. I'm sure some of you feel my pain in the background about that. Please tell me I'm not alone. But anywho, onto the eyebrows of this fine gentleman. He is a distinguished, beautiful boy. And he just likes to party. Honestly, I've been looking more into macaws lately. And funny thing, golden blue macaws and scarlet macaws can actually mix. And when they do mix and make offspring, their offspring are referred to as sunburst macaws, and they are absolutely stunning. I am very tempted to make a sunburst macaw OC just because of how cool they look. I will pop an image up here for you guys to see the sunburst macaws because they are beautiful. And hopefully I can encourage some of you to make some sunburst macaw OCs too. Be cool to see us kind of just have a flock of those. Also, a second favorite bird of mine is the Dracula parrot. These parrots are they particularly live in New Guinea, which is an island above Australia. So they're pretty neat. Unfortunately, you cannot have them as pets because their species as well. As most things, when people mess with animals, well, their species is well threatened because of people destroying their habitat and hunting them for their feathers. Because apparently people, I guess they like their feathers enough to freaking poach them, which isn't cool. It's like you could just wait for it. Like, honestly, you could just wait for them to molt their feathers and just take the molted feathers, which I do not get. But anywho, back on fun topics of cool bird stuff. So, another fun thing that I kind of discovered is that, like, you can't mix macaws and cockatoos because apparently they're genus. Like, yes, they are related, but their genes are too different enough to not be able to mix. Though I would love it if that was possible. Like, just imagine just a brightly colored cockatoo. That would look cool. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna ruin the toucan for you guys. The toucan in Rio. So in all reality, he would have murked Blues and Jules' children because toucans, they're not really nice birds. They look really cool and they're pretty chill with people. But they're kind of like the blue jays of Brazil. Oh, and I find it funny how the toucan in Rio is married to another toucan species, but all of the children look like him, which I find funny, which tells me that he's probably meeting up with another toucan lady that's of his same species and just making his toucan wife believe that they're theirs. I don't know, that's just a film theory. It's kind of a dark film theory, but it makes sense. I probably done ruined that for you guys. I'm terribly sorry. I completely ruined that character now. For the two other birds, I'm not quite sure what they are quite yet. I'm probably gonna have to Google what they are at some point. But they are quite fascinating. I'll probably look it up for you guys, and I'll probably just put it somewhere on screen for you guys so that way you're also informed. But yeah, currently we're just doing the line work here. And as you can see, the macaw has different shades of blue and different shades of yellows and stuff. So we're just gonna make the main lines like a dark blue, so that way it kind of stands out with the other colors to give it a little bit of pop. Though we'll keep the beak and the eyes black, so that way we can distinguish them better. So we're gonna base our blues off of the real thing a bit more. I mean, they're still gonna be our own kind of colors. We forgot to do that. Also, we're gonna do that. Fill in those little spots. I personally really like using the magic wand because it makes it a lot easier to fill in inside the lines without having to worry about certain lines spilling out onto everything else. So yeah, I guess I'm a bit lazy when it comes to that. Also, these blue and gold macaws have some stripes on their cheeks, which are usually really unique. They're kind of a bit, I guess, like kind of like a bit like how tiger stripes and zebra stripes are, just unique, kind of like how people have unique fingerprints. Like, sure, they may look similar, but in all reality, they look different. Which is actually really cool because it, like, say if you don't know where your macaw is, with, like, say, like, hypothetically, there's probably no such thing as a macaw daycare, but hypothetically, let's say there was, and you take your macaw child to a macaw daycare with a bunch of other macaws that look very similar to it. But the main way that you could tell is just by looking at the stripes on its face. Either that or, I guess, like, call it by name, I guess. I mean, they are highly intelligent. But you'd be able to tell which one's yours based off of, like, the stripes. Unless you really don't know your macaw that well, or who knows, maybe you just got it and just don't remember its face. But yeah, it's kind of like fingerprints. Very unique striping. For the most part, honestly, Animal Jam's macaw is actually pretty accurate. Like, compared to Rio's macaws, honestly, it's a lot more accurate. Because, like, it's got, like, even the legs on them are longer when you go to look at them. And there's even the little white bands and stripes around the eyes and whatnot. Also, I really had a lot of fun with these little feathers with making them shiny. They just kind of look kind of magical, honestly. Like, I kind of want to eat them. Like, they just look extraordinarily edible. Okay, we are almost done with this. I forgot that I had to do the cool little sparklies, the blue here for the sparklies and stuff. So we'll add those and we are pretty much done. Here's the speed paint of our finished product. And a good portion of this video was just of me rambling. I hoped you learned a lot from this video, and if you did enjoy it, please do subscribe and share. A like would be very much so appreciated as well. So, thank you a ton. Toodaloo.